Hey, what's going on, guys? Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel, and hope everybody's doing okay after it feels like everything is falling apart on Heat Twitter, Heat social media, Heat fans all freaking out. I get the frustration. I do. Don't get me wrong. I was there last night watching that game, and I think the thing that frustrates me most about the lack of action right now is I really truly believe that Miami's top two dogs are good enough to lead them to a championship. I really do. I believe in Jimmy Butler. I've seen enough of him in his time with Miami to know what an animal that guy turns into in the playoffs, and how he just strikes fear in the hearts of all your rivals, and how he can perform on the road when the chips are down and when things are really up against it. And I've really felt like the last two runs that they've gone deep, he just felt like they just ran out of bullets aside him. And some of them were unfortunate, like Goran Dragic getting hurt and Bam's arm falling off, which was already in pain as it was. And then last year, between Kyle and Tyler and PJ all falling by the wayside, I just feel like with performances like that, it's very obvious that the guy can get you very, very close. And on the other side of that, you see the growth of Bam Adebayo, which has definitely been the best story of the year for sure, in a year that's been filled with frustration and has, gotten under people's skin. Bam looks like he has taken a giant leap offensively. The confidence that he has in his offensive arsenal is tremendous. His mentality change. The guy is sitting here quoting Kobe Bryant after games, basically, and is hitting jump shots to the point where his head coach is even like, all right, let's dial it back. I love that. I love the fact that we have gotten Bam in that place offensively, that because you're going to need that. You're going to need that in the postseason. And I do feel like these guys look as good as they have, as good as ever. And I feel like the pieces around them just aren't even close to being good enough. And I think that is the thing that I find most frustrating about the inaction of the front office going back to the preseason, and that they went into this. And I get it. There was some big circumstances out there. You had some whales out there in Donovan Mitchell, who thought he was going to be on the Miami Heat, and Kevin Durant, which was probably a big pipe dream because it seemed like he wanted to go to Phoenix the whole time. And this is a couple times with KD where it feels like, Pat in the front office has really just hoped that maybe they could get a way to sway KD in some way. When it was the first chance back in the back when they met him at the Hamptons, they apparently impressed him. Reports were they impressed him, but you couldn't now do what the Golden State Warriors were going to do for him. And then this time around, it's like, yeah, you're in the rival conference of the team that's going to trade him, and also they're going to be there in a situation with Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and DeAndre, and he's just basically going to get added in. And even if he were to come here, and I can tell you that this was a three-pony race, that it was going to be better for him. Did you have the pieces, the pawns? Who knows? But you thought that you did maybe in the offseason, and, they were going a little bit crazier. I would have never traded Bam for him. I don't see really – I think that – you needed Adebayo to make it worth it getting Kevin Durant, but those types of things, even with those moves striking out, to go into to go into a season where you knew the big next to Bam was an issue, and it's not an indictment on Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin's actually had a really nice individual season. It's the case of need and guys who could be around him and who could buoy the team when the guy takes 15 minutes of rest, and you're not getting nuked by a negative 100 rating because his backup is impossible to keep onto the court, so much so that he ends up throwing a massage gun. Like, these are the things that you went to. And I'm frustrated by the idea that they ran it back, knowing that they just did that the season before last. After they went to the finals, they came back with basically the same roster, except they lost their power forward. They tried to mishmash, hodgepodge it together. It was a disaster, and it just felt like they were always swimming upstream and they never recovered. And that was, one of Jimmy's probably better regular seasons with Miami that year. but you just felt like you were going into a postseason outgunned, even when he said he was stupidly locked in. And so, okay, you go the next year and you make this big home run cut. Your big home run cut that year is to get his friend, get him Kyle Lowry. Makes all the sense in the world. Even if you're not the biggest fan of the guy, it seems perfect for what they need. A true facilitator, a quarterback, a guy who has, been the leader on a championship team. And he's got, a 24-year-old young center who needs people to get him the ball. And he has a young, where they're going to have a young, exciting guard coming off the bench and all that stuff. And then this, it all just, Kyle had his moments in that year, but was dealing with a lot. And it just never really got to the point where it was once everybody got healthy. And then all of a sudden he wasn't healthy. So Jimmy and Bam, they do all they can, especially Jimmy in that postseason last year. And to have the attitude of that be come back, well, we run it back, we hope for health, and that's going to be like, it just felt there was just such a lack of proactivity in that. And that's what was disappointing in it, is because, you knew PJ Tucker was an important piece of this team, but you didn't have a replacement for him. Even if he's getting up there in age, you knew he was going to go to a rival. The story was just there the year before with him leaving the Bucks and you taking him and making the Bucks a little bit weaker, not quite the same, and helping you on the impact. And I get it. Look, PJ was old, and you feel a little queasy giving him a 3-year deal. In the end, I mean, that worry is really what bit the Suns with Jay Crowder, right? Like, that he'd only want to give Jay Crowder a couple of years. That last year, he didn't even show up to work. So I get it. But we're looking right now, the Heat are in this time where you keep wondering how many more at-bats does Jimmy have in the postseason where he can be one of the best postseason players in the world, where he can really make that big of an impact. And if it does take a step back, will Bam then be at that crescendo where he can be the guy to carry you? And all of these questions out there, to have no real answer or make no big swings, knowing that the Kyle Lowry deal doesn't seem like it's worked out. You didn't really have a replacement this year, a power forward. Then we were led to believe, all right, there's going to be a move at some point, sometime this year, to fix the void at 4. Jay Crowder seemed like a safety blanket. He's now going to one of your biggest rivals, so he's off the board. All of these buyout guys that are here with making no moves are mostly, inefficient point guards, which seems, I guess better than what you got, but seems almost like the last thing you really need on this team, aside from shooting and size and strength. And you're just left scratching your head. Like, how could they be in this spot? And, you look at the moves that they have made contract wise. Yeah, it's tough not to look at the front office and see outside of Jimmy and Bam. It's tough to look at it and say, man, they've really set themselves up for success, because they're locked into a fat contract with Kyle Lowry. Nobody wants it. In fact, like all of the teams that you thought might go with him went in so many other directions to try and replace their point guard void, and he was left without a team. And now it's like, oh, well, he's going to still be, away with the team and not play for a little bit because of this knee soreness. That's what they're calling it. And then, Duncan Robinson injured, locked into a fat deal with him. His shootings regressed in a year where they're dying for shooting. And now, even on top of that, he can't even get out there because he's not healthy. And then even like Max and Gabe have, mostly plateaued. If you want to say maybe they slightly improved, but I would say not really this year. I think that's been a frustrating thing. Caleb Martin on a nice deal has done good by the Heat, but is in over his head because he's playing out of position when he should just be like almost like what Tyler was last year, that igniter off the bench and locking in and giving you some good defensive minutes on, certain wing players. The only one I could really look at it and say, man, you ran it back and it looks like it's bearing fruit, but now he's injured again, is Victor Oladipo. I think that could be important for you in the playoffs, and I still think that can bring something to Miami later on this year. But it, to look at all this and to see the inactivity, and I'm doing this before buyouts happen and all that type of stuff, so maybe they'll stun me with one. I don't know. But to do all that, yeah, it's disappointing to see for sure. I'm not going to be one of these people who calls Pat Riley washed, or that man has done a lot of great things for this franchise, and the inactivity at this point does not like ruin a legacy for me or all that. But it is okay to be frustrated as a fan of the team and be like, what the hell is going on here? How did you guys not see this coming? How have we not had the Houdini act to get them out of this yet? And whether it be bad previous contracts, lack of draft assets, or, having to make up for past mistakes to get to where you were here, and now you have to pay the credit on that all of a sudden. It's tough to sit idly by and look at all the other teams basically make moves, all of them, and pay outside of 3 franchises. Even the Raptors, who looked dead in the water and everybody thought they were going to be the bones were going to be picked off Toronto. Even they were making moves to try and make themselves better. The LA teams, which you have better records than, they were trying to make moves. Everybody out west was taking big swings. And it kind of just felt like most of the East was like backing off of Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly. And man, I look at the top 2 guys Miami has, and I feel like they can hang with any of those teams. I've seen them. I've seen playoff series against all of those teams. And I know that Miami's top 2 guys can go up against their top 2 guys. Maybe they win, maybe lose, but I know they can go. But their supporting cast compared to Miami's supporting cast, it feels like night and day. It feels like that's not even the same zip code. And I guess a lot of it's going to come down to, what does Tyler Hero bring to the table this postseason? That's the big swing, because, he's shooting has just gone kind of up and down. He's obviously got more playmaking responsibilities and whatnot, but, Tyler is, a big wild card here for Miami, and they are going to need a lot out of him if they're going to do anything. Because if they don't get a lot from him, yeah, it feels like they're going to be outgunned, especially from the shooting standpoint. And that was the other thing. Like, we've so obviously looked at this and been like, all right, something's got to happen here with the shooting. And they're just going to go with the same cast of characters and hope like hell it balances out after we're almost on a full calendar year here of this regular season and last postseason of not being good at shooting the basketball. I don't know, man. It's a tough sell. It's a tough sell to the fan base when you were so close to a championship, and it feels like Boston making moves to get themselves better, Milwaukee making moves to get themselves better, Philadelphia, took PJ Tucker from you. All of these teams did some kind of revamping. Cleveland obviously made a huge home run cut in getting Donovan Mitchell after having a really good year last year. And for Miami, it just feels like you're just sitting idly by, and you're asking a hell of a lot from Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo to go into a postseason with this same cast after what we've watched now, and think like this is gonna get it done. So, we'll see what this buyout market bears out. There's gonna have to be, I think, we'll get into all that at another time. But yeah, just the initial reaction to deadline day was very, very disappointed and very frustrated, especially after watching what Bam and Jimmy have been doing this season.